Hey, it's the Empire. Don't forget to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon for more videos. We taking over. Let's go, champ. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button right now. Let's go.
Hey, it's the Empire, Jukebox Empire, Boxing or Boxing. Now, my boy AB, always balling about billions, athletic bastard, man. 4 Division World Champion, superstar, and, in his prime, man, he was walking through guys, man. He was running through the division, he was throwing combinations, he was taunting his opponents. He was out of control, man. Out of control. Now, it's wild, man, because Adrien Broner, he says when he went to this highest weight class, i.e., the welterweight weight class, the 147 weight class, he ran into Marcus El Chino Maidana. And in that fight, Broner took a lot of sustained punishment in that fight. And he talked about how after that Marcus Maidana fight, he was more tentative on the punches he throws. He's more thoughtful on the punches he throws. And ever since then, he says he don't really take as much chances anymore, and he's more based on accuracy and power. Now it's wild, man, because Broner, he later in the interview talks about how not only that, but he thinks he's an accurate puncher who throws only precise shots. Now, if you watch Broner in his prime, man, that's not what kind of fighter he was. He wasn't an athletic. He wasn't a Floyd Mayweather type fighter, which he tries to be now. He tries to be a Mayweather type fighter. He tries to be really accurate. He works at the Philly show. And Broner wasn't that kind of fighter. If you actually watch him fight, he fought in the inside a lot. And he let his hands go a lot. He threw a lot of punches. He was more of a combination puncher than anything else. Nowadays, Broner thinks he's like some Floyd Mayweather type guy. And that's just not the case. There's a thing in boxing, I call it the undefeated effect. When you're such a big star in boxing, you're such a big name, they do the bare minimum to get a W because they're such a big star. They're gonna get the nod because they're good for the sport of boxing. AB has fallen into that trap, man. He doesn't throw as many punches as he's used to because he was used to getting a lot of decisions that are too close to call. And now that Broner has a few losses on his record, he needs to understand that he's not just some big name that they're just going to give him the nod because he looked cute on the outside and he landed some counter punches. That's not enough at the highest level, especially when you have losses. So Broner is going to need to wake up to that reality. He can't do the bare minimum and get these W's anymore. That's not how boxing works. And when you start taking these W's, you gotta prove yourself when you beat a person who you weren't supposed to beat, right? So Broner, one other problem I got with him too is he believes he's something he's not. He's not a counter puncher on the outside. That's just not his style. He's really an inside fighter who throws combinations. It's wild to me how someone could be so aggressive when they're smaller, but go up in weight and be more hesitant. At the same time, Broner is fighting bigger opponents, so he's more wary of getting hit by them because he can get hurt. But if you just stand there, the guy is basically if AB is standing in front of a bigger fighter and Broner doesn't really throw anything back, Adrien Broner is going to become a punching bag, and that's exactly what happens. And I believe that if Broner throws more punches, he wouldn't get hit as much. Broner thinks if he just thinks defense first, it's going to stop him from getting hurt. And I really think that Broner, if he thinks offense first, that will really stop him from getting hurt. And that's what Broner needs to do. Those Marcus Maidana fights, when he was getting hit, most of those shots, at least especially the first knockdown, that was Broner avoiding the punches. So that was him trying to be defensive. He just doesn't have the pedigree defensively to be blocking, haymakers like that. So if he was aggressive instead of pulling back, there's a likely chance he wouldn't have got dropped against Maidana the first time around, right? Now the second knockdown was a little different. Broner was shelled up. He was standing in front of him, but at the same time, again, he was shelled up. He wasn't being aggressive when he got hit. It's really hard to see Broner. I never seen Broner be aggressive and lose a trade, right? If Broner's throwing a combination and some other opponents are throwing a combination, Broner's going to get there first because he's a smaller fighter, he's a faster fighter, he's a more athletic fighter, right? Broner, the problem with him is he waits too much. That's his problem. So it mind boggles me how he's gonna go up in weight and throw less punches when he's fighting bigger, stronger opponents. If anything, he should throw more punches because you're fighting someone who's so big and so strong. They're used to getting hit by guys their size. And Broner's, like I said earlier, a 4 Division world champion. So when you're fighting you know, you're going up 4 weight classes and you're fighting a guy who's a natural welterweight, let's say, for example, you know, he's used to getting hit by guys who weigh north of 147. A lot of these fighters, like Errol Spence Jr. or even like Kerr Brook, they say they be weighing like 180s and 170s, you know, not in training camp. You know, that's the weight difference. You know, while Broner might walk around in 150s max, you know, maybe 160s, these guys have 20 plus pounds in them or 10 plus pounds in them, just naturally walking around, you know? So Broner, man, you know, I think he's having a delusion about who he is as a fighter. He's not some accurate guy. He's not a Floyd Mayweather type fighter. He's an aggressive fighter who throws combinations, you know? That was Broner in his prime. And I don't know who's telling him he's a counterpuncher, but that's just not the case. One other fighter Adrien Broner reminds me of is a Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia, when he was at 140, he was knocking guys out with that left hook. And, you know, the thing is, he wasn't doing that to the later part of his career when he started knocking out the Khans and so on and so forth. You know, sometimes I believe that these fighters, they start watching our highlights and they start falling in love with what with media and the media portrays him as, right? Danny Garcia started falling in love with his power. Now all of a sudden he went to 147, and instead of throwing combinations, he's throwing all power shots instead of just letting his hands go and just throwing combinations, right? So, you know, that's another person who's suffering from a dilemma about who he is as a fighter, right? Danny Garcia in his prime was a combination puncher as well, right? The best performance I ever seen from him was the Lucas Matisse fight, right? He wasn't trying to counter Lucas Matisse. He was just throwing punches and throwing combinations because he knew one punch wouldn't do anything against Matisse. Ever since then, though, he's been only trying to knock guys out with a haymaker, you know, left hook, right hook, just all power. You know, he's not trying to box. He's not trying to do any of that. He's just trying to knock you out. And that's the problem. You know, a lot of these fighters need to, it's wild how you can go your whole career doing what you do best, and then you get a couple highlights of you knocking some guy out or you looking really flashy, and all of a sudden you think that's who you are as a fighter. That's not who you are as a fighter. That's not what got you there. You know, so Broner needs to go back to the basics, man. He needs to go back to his combinations. He needs to go back to letting his hands go, because that's who he was as a fighter. That's what everyone keeps talking about. Why won't he let his hands go? Because we know at the end of the day, that's how Broner got big. He got big by throwing punches, because that's who he was as a fighter, right? And I think this was even before he lost to Marcus Maidana. When you actually watch him versus Paulie Malignaggi, he was being really conservative with his punches. And Paulie Malignaggi doesn't hit hard. There's no reason why you should be conservative with the Paulie Malignaggi. You should be like, you should be trying to stop the guy. You know, Paulie Malignaggi is known for not hitting hard at all. So yeah, man, let me know how you guys feel about it, though. I thought it's really interesting stuff. AB, man, you know, talks about how he doesn't let his hands go anymore because of Marcus Maidana. That may have put another block in front of him to not let his hands go. Anyway, let me know how you guys feel about it, though. Like, comment, subscribe. It's the Empire. GeoBox Empire. Peace.